Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. The courtroom felt colder than it should have. Mariah Copeland stood beside her attorney, her hands trembling slightly as she entered her plea, not guilty. The words echoed louder in her head than they did in the courtroom. Sharon Newman sat behind her, barely breathing, praying that this nightmare would somehow end. Christine Blair Romalotti had done what she could. She had secured bail. It was a miracle, really, considering the charges, considering what Mariah had done. Or almost done. When the judge ordered the ankle monitor and ruled that Mariah would remain in Sharon's custody pending trial, Sharon felt a strange mixture of relief and humiliation. Relief that her daughter would not be sitting in a jail cell, humiliation that her child had to wear a device that tracked her every movement like a criminal. But Sharon didn't care about appearances anymore. She cared about saving her daughter. Outside the courtroom, Christine spoke calmly, professionally, explaining that Mariah's honesty and remorse during her psychological evaluation had made a significant difference. The court had seen that she was not a cold-blooded monster. She was a woman clearly in crisis. But Mariah didn't look relieved. She looked guilty. "I shouldn't have pled not guilty," Mariah whispered once they were alone. "I knew what I was doing, I remember it, I should pay for it." Sharon's heart shattered. "No, you were sick, you were not yourself." Christine's voice turned firm. "We are preparing an insanity defense because that is the truth. You were experiencing delusions, trauma responses, PTSD. This is not a prison situation, Mariah. This is a treatment situation." But Mariah's eyes filled with tears. She began telling them again about the man in Boston, the one who looked like Ian Ward, the one she almost killed because her mind convinced her it was him, the hallucinations, the voices, the memories that refused to stay buried. "I thought I was getting better," she sobbed, "but the visions just got worse. I thought if I listened to them, if I understood them, they would stop, but they didn't." Sharon wrapped her arms around her daughter. This wasn't about criminal intent. This was about childhood trauma that had never fully healed. Christine promised to argue for probation and intensive counseling, an inpatient facility if necessary, anything but prison. But not everyone in Genoa City was ready to see Mariah as a victim of mental illness. At the Chancellor Mansion, Abby Winters was barely holding herself together. Dominic was safe, that was all that mattered, but the rage simmering inside her refused to cool. Tessa Porter arrived gently, cautiously. She checked on Dominic first, smiling softly as the little boy played, blissfully unaware of the storm that had torn through his world. Then Tessa tried to explain. "No one knew how bad it was," she said carefully. "Mariah didn't even know." Devon Winters listened but didn't interrupt. Abby's jaw tightened. "You're asking me to understand the woman who tried to take my son away forever." Tessa's voice broke slightly. "I'm not asking you to forgive her, I'm just saying she wasn't herself." Abby turned away, unable to process compassion yet. Later at Crimson Lights, Mariah sat alone, ankle monitor hidden beneath her jeans, shame radiating from her like heat. When Tessa walked in, Mariah couldn't even look at her. "You must hate me," Mariah said. Tessa's eyes filled with tears immediately. "I don't hate you, I hate what you've been going through." That almost hurt worse. Mariah asked about Daniel Romalotti Jr. Had he been there, watching over Tessa like she had asked? Tessa nodded. "He's been a good friend." Mariah swallowed hard. "You deserve good things, Tess. You deserve someone stable, someone who won't hurt you." Tessa stiffened. "Stop making decisions for me," she snapped, pain cracking through her composure. "You don't get to push me away again." Mariah admitted she knew about the divorce filing. She thought she was protecting Tessa. But Tessa saw it differently. "You're trying to control the ending," Tessa whispered. "You don't get to decide what I need." Tears streamed down Tessa's face as she walked out before Mariah could push her further. Mariah stayed behind, alone with her guilt. Across town at the GCAC, Daniel sat with his father, Danny Romalotti. "I don't know where I fit now," Daniel admitted. "If Mariah gets help, if Tessa lets her back in, what happens to me?" Danny didn't judge him. "It's not selfish to ask that," he said gently. But Daniel insisted his feelings didn't matter. When Christine passed by and mentioned she'd seen Tessa with Mariah at Crimson Lights, Daniel's heart dropped. He found Tessa later. She was crying. Without hesitation, she fell into his arms. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. Daniel held her tightly. "We'll figure it out together." But even as he said it, uncertainty filled the air between them. Back at the Chancellor Mansion, Abby's anger exploded again. She wanted to take him forever, Abby told Devon, forever. Devon tried to ground her. "A judge will decide what happens, prison or treatment." But Abby didn't care about legal nuance. She cared about the terror she felt when Dominic was gone. Soon Sharon arrived with Mariah. Abby's eyes darkened immediately. "This isn't appropriate," Abby snapped. Dom could hear her, he could see her. Mariah stood there trembling. "I just want to apologize." She spoke about seeing the love Dominic had for his parents. She said she finally understood that he belonged with Abby and Devon. She admitted her delusion had twisted something sacred. "I am so sorry," she cried. Abby stared at her cold, wounded, furious. "Did you come here expecting forgiveness?" Mariah didn't answer. Because yes, a small part of her had hoped. Abby's voice hardened. "Leave and don't ever come near my son again." Mariah flinched like she'd been slapped. Sharon gently led her away. And as the doors closed behind them, it became painfully clear. Mariah's legal battle was only beginning. But the emotional consequences, those were just getting started. That night Mariah couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Dominic's face. Not frightened, confused. And that hurt even more. The ankle monitor felt heavier in the darkness, a constant reminder that she had crossed a line she could never uncross. Sharon stayed awake too. She researched trauma specialists, PTSD experts, facilities in and out of state. She refused to lose her daughter to prison. The next morning, Christine met with them again to prepare. "The prosecution will argue endangerment," Christine explained, "but we will demonstrate diminished capacity due to trauma." Mariah shook her head. "I don't want excuses." "It's not an excuse," Christine corrected, "it's context." Meanwhile, Abby couldn't stop replaying everything in her mind. The empty nursery. The panic. The fear that Dominic was gone forever. Devon tried to soothe her, but even he admitted the anger lingered. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at her without seeing that moment," Abby confessed. At Crimson Lights, Tessa sat alone, staring into her coffee. Daniel joined her quietly. "You don't have to choose today," he told her gently. Tessa's voice trembled. "I still love her." Daniel nodded. "I know. And I don't know if that makes me weak or loyal." Daniel reached for her hand. "It makes you human." Across town, Mariah stood in Sharon's living room, staring at childhood photos. She saw a girl who had survived Ian Ward, who had rebuilt herself, who had found love, and who had almost destroyed everything. She broke down again. "I don't trust my own mind," she whispered. Sharon cupped her daughter's face. "Then we find doctors who can help you trust it again." Days passed. The town buzzed with whispers. Some sympathetic, some judgmental. Mariah kept her head down. Abby kept her guard up. Tessa stayed torn. Daniel stayed hopeful. Christine prepared for war in the courtrooms. And as the hearing date approached, one thing became certain. This wasn't just about whether Mariah would go to prison or receive treatment. It was about whether the people she loved could ever see her as more than the worst thing she'd almost done. In Genoa City, forgiveness never came easy. And redemption, it demanded a price. Mariah Copeland had more challenges ahead of her. Legal battles, mental health struggles, broken relationships, and a long road toward proving she was not defined by one tragic chapter of her life. But whether that road led to healings or heartbreak remained to be seen.